All right, so let's go back to what we was doing and finish off and call it a night. I hope that was helpful for those who were here. I hope that was uh, helpful.
Here is because you have such a breadth of work experience. Not only have you done like the Disney licenses for Boom Studios, you work for other smaller publishers out there. You've actually written some screenplays and animation shows and stuff that have been up on stuff like Max, but you also started your career at Tokyo Pop, basically adapting manga to English translations for the Western market, which is going to appeal or be pertinent to the very first topic we're going to talk about, Aaron.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I started out as a copy editor there, and then as I was copy editing, I was giving notes on like the sentence structure. It wasn't just like going through. Most people would just go through it and they'd be like, "This spelling's wrong, this grammar's wrong," but I was going through and I was giving notes on like sentence structure and like you could restructure this way so it sounds more natural in English coming from Japanese, and the editors really liked that, and so I ended up doing a lot of adaptations myself.
Manga has been selling incredibly well in the West within the last few years. Titles such as Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, and My Hero Academia all appeared on bestseller lists with impressive regularity. As Publishers Weekly cited, manga sales accounted for almost 45% of all comic books sold in 2022. Manga sales also outpaced the once dominant children's comics and helped revive comic sales in 2022. Publishers Weekly also credited the surge of interest in manga to anime's unstoppable mainstream popularity. For comparison's sake, and as per Business Insider, comic sales in 2021 hit a record-breaking sale of $2.075 billion, with manga accounting for $1.47 billion in total.
Well, now we all know why American comic journalists are so hot to include manga in the sales numbers, as they continue to claim that there's nothing wrong with the Western comic book industry. It's all fine, and all we need to do to make it look good is to stitch manga sales
yes,
and claim them as our own.
I
And
noticed that they
great.
do that.
This article that I'm
These people are so
here,
disingenuous.
Four reasons.
They'll say nothing's wrong with the Western comic ecosystem. So what they'll do is add the manga sales with the Western sales, so they think nothing's wrong when they're conflating the numbers. When really they know the Western market is not doing well in the comic book space because manga is destroying them. So for them to cope, they'll just say nothing's wrong with the Western market. It's just that manga sales are not that big and high, but you're kind of adding them to the Western market.
Says they ain't slick low.
Yeah, they think that yo, talk about being disingenuous as hell, man. That is crazy. God, talk about cope.
Why they believe manga is absolutely destroying American comic books. But starting up, they talk about the price. Manga may have come out as the victor of manga versus comics because of prices and shopping venues. It's simply more budget friendly to get into manga than comics, especially when comparing the book's page count of product to the sticker price. Single comics issues, which are around 22 pages long, may seem cheap since they cost around $5 per issue. Graphic novels or collections that have 100 pages at the very least can go for as low as $10 depending on the title.
Wait.
However,
Stop. I'm sorry. We got to clip that out. I got assaulted by a bug.
It's super easy. What are you doing, Aaron?
I'm so sorry.
As if the people don't want to see you being harassed by a fly.
Dude, it came right at me.
Let me see. I know you guys can't see it, but like, I need to see that.
I'm sorry.
Long may seem cheap since they cost around $5 per issue. Graphic novels or collections that have 100 pages at the very least can go for as low as $10 depending on the title.
Wait.
However,
Stop.
Says Fly Sama.
We got to
You got to talk about. Okay, it didn't show it because they cut that part out.
It's super
They
easy.
just have the
What are you
audio
doing,
in there.
Aaron?
I'm so sorry.
As if the people don't want to see you being harassed by a fly.
Dude, it came right at me.
It came right at me. He didn't care.
And I just like went.
I know how you feel, bro. I
I'm
know how you
leaving
feel.
it in. It
No,
doesn't matter.
don't do it. I'll be so upset.
You got
Graphic novels or
defeated by a
collections that have
bug.
100 pages at the very least can go for as low as $10 depending on the title. However, a typical manga volume has around 160 to 180 pages for around $10, and there's no denying that you get much better bang for your buck, and the value proposition of manga certainly eclipses comic books basically across the board.
you know, if you're a kid and you know, you have a certain amount of money, what are you gonna invest in? You know, you're gonna get so much more story for $9.99.
Says, oh, I thought you
from
had
a
gone
you
off.
know, from a manga
No, not
than you
yet. I'm about
are,
to
you
be
know,
done.
paying what,
I'm about to
$7.99
finish
for
right
a
now.
Batman book that isn't
There's
even
not
gonna
much
be
I
that
have to
good.
do anymore.
Well, I think Batman's between $5 and $6, unless you get to the Brave and the Bold anthology book, and yes, it's $8.
Or unless it's a special issue for some reason that they thought they could charge $8 for.
Yeah, I think the upcoming Mark Russell Batman story is going to be $8 an issue. Special, right? Special ed.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I wouldn't pay you $5 for a Mark Russell Batman comic. I don't know how they think they're going to get 8.
And the other thing about the price, if you just want to get the physical collections, it's so much cheaper and value friendly to go with manga. But also if you're a digital reader, to get like the DC like Universe app, which isn't even their entire library, I think it's at a minimum $7 a month and goes up to $10. And I think they might even have a higher tier than that. If you get Shonen Jump, $3 a month, unlimited access to every single
$3 a
manga they've ever
month?
produced.
Yeah, and it's one of those
Bro,
things that
it's
you know, could be
$3 a
considered loss
month
leader.
just to get a
They're not making
comic
as much
book
money
from
on
them?
the
Any
app,
of them?
but it does get
Bro,
people
no
invested,
wonder
it
this
gets
thing
people
is
checking it
blowing
out,
up.
and then they go out and they actually purchase the physical copies.
Well,
Oh
they're
my
also able to
God.
advertise you when new volumes have come out. Oh, you like to read My Hero Academia? That's releasing on Tuesday, and you'll
Says,
get a
I
little
think you
reminder
heard them say
from the app itself.
$3.0 a
and
month.
this is,
Yes, they
this is
did.
a
Dude, that's
market that
Netflix
Marvel and
beginning
DC
money.
long ago abandoned.
Remember Netflix was
Instead of
$3 a
developing
month?
their own apps and really,
Like
you know,
10
making
years
those
ago?
strong, they gave it to the morons at Comixology. You know, they just handed off their business to somebody else instead of doing it themselves, instead of investing in it themselves and having control over it. You know, then Amazon bought Comixology, and then it got even worse, and then it eventually went away. So all that digital content that you paid for, you know, good job. You know, it's just one of those things. Don't buy digital, buy physical
Says,
media.
yes,
You know,
Netflix
Shonen Jump
prices
is
are
a great
ridiculous
app
now.
to get in, to read a bunch of manga and see what you actually want to own physically. But then you should go out and you should buy it physically because,
Oh my
you know,
God.
as we see from Comixology, as we see from the PlayStation Network, as we see from all these digital libraries, you are just leasing. You do not own anything. So, you know, go and get physical media.
They also talk about the accessibility issue with comic books versus manga. Comic shops heavily cater to readers who are already deeply invested in comics' robust but relatively narrow culture. Comic book movies, pop culture dominance has done little to change or improve the perception that comics were generally male-dominated in juvenile space. Manga volumes are usually sold as paperback or hardback books, and they nearly always appear in mainstream bookstores such as Barnes & Noble. Such locations are open and more welcoming to any book lover, not just comic book fans who are already part of a certain fandom. This gives Japanese manga far more visibility for shoppers and potential newcomers, and this helps minimize manga's geeky aura.
That sounds like a slur.
I feel like they're bashing us on that one, doesn't it?
I feel like they are. Yeah. No, I don't think. Look, I mean, I don't. I go to the bookstore a lot, and I always check out the manga section, and you know, just by presence of me being there, it's much cooler.
That is one of the things that Marvel and DC were a bit narrow-sighted. Once they decided to go all in on the direct market, you know, and you stop seeing them at newsstands, you stop seeing them on spinner racks. There became an enormous accessibility issue, which admittedly Marvel Comics decided that they needed to address about 10 years ago. They just thought their accessibility issue was that their heroes were predominantly white and male. And they're like, well, if we make them more diverse, they'll be more accessible.
No,
Not
doesn't
realizing
work.
that the real accessibility issue is they just aren't widely available, which manga certainly is.
It does not
And
work.
and the worse stories that you've put out, the harder you've made them to sell, which means that retailers that were dependent upon good product have gone out of business, increasing the accessibility problems. So it's you know, everything with American comics is reactionary. It's there's no forward thinking whatsoever. It's always, you know, we've done business like this, you know, for years, and so we'll just stay the course, and there's absolutely no innovation, and that's exactly what you're seeing. While the Japanese continue to innovate, and while manga continues to find new avenues to get out to people, you know, Western comics just stick with the old same old, and you know, but the problem is the quality of the stories and the quality of the characters and the quality of the art is not same old. It's getting worse. So your sales are getting worse. Comic shops are going away. You're losing your avenue to reach people.
And I do think they miss another point here when it comes to digital, that, you know, in a lot of ways, your phone or your tablet really could be the new spinner rack, that new entry point. You always have an enormous access to all the mangas that's out there to remind you just how cool it is, where you don't really get that with DC and Marvel.
No, not at all. And you have to pay the same price for a digital copy of a American superhero comic that you would for a physical physical volume. So why would you ever do that? I know that because one guy, Brian Hibbs, lost his mind about it back in the day. We all had to pay full price for digital comics because he thought it would hurt the sales in his store. Manga is the example that shows you that that's not true. It's a loss leader. Yeah, there's some people that will never come and buy a physical copy, but there's people that are never going to buy a physical copy anyway, and those are the people that are going to be on the app. Right now, you have a ton of people who are reading comics who are never going to buy a physical copy. They like to complain about it, they like to assert their will, they like to demand their ships, but they're out there on the pirate sites getting their comics. So you're never going to convert those people to sales anyway. But by having a cheaper app, or by having an option where you can buy a digital copy cheaper and read it and see if you like it, there is a huge market of people that will then go buy a physical copy. They will want to own it physically, especially if they know the fact that, they understand the fact that at any point their digital library can be taken away.
Absolutely. The next thing they identified that manga is doing better than comics is the point of entry. Any manga series has one straightforward story, and the volumes go in order and beyond. Example, volume 1 is followed by volume 2, 3, and so forth. This makes manga more similar to serialized novels that are meant to be read in order. On the other hand, comics tend to be all over the place. Even if comic publishers make an effort to provide clear entry points and detailed guides for their countless rebooted universes, alternate universes, and new storylines, it can still be too daunting and overwhelming for potential newcomers to even start. Manga doesn't suffer from a confusing decades-old web of interconnected stories, endless retcons, and alternate continuities to sort through. And I can absolutely attest to this because I did start reading comic books a little later in life. I was in my 30s when that happened. And I do remember the first time I went into Heroes and Fantasies in San Antonio, Texas. And I was looking at the wall and I knew I wanted a Batman comic book. I wanted one specifically, but there were like 6 different titles all next to each other. And I couldn't
tell which one was
figure
which.
out which one I was supposed to be actually buying.
Right.
And I was so frustrated by the experience, I just walked out and didn't buy anything.
Says I sent the message to you on Insta for later.
If you're a parent and you take your kid to see a Marvel movie, I mean, I know that they don't really do that anymore, but a couple of years ago, that was a big thing to do. And so, you take your kid in and they're like, oh, they really loved Avengers. Let's go to the comic shop. Let's get an Avengers book. Not only do you have to navigate all of the ridiculous variant cover and relaunch and renumbering schemes, but you have to then figure out what, the team that we saw on the movie
is it the same?
The team that's represented in the comic books, because the comic companies have no synergy with the movies whatsoever. The movies have no synergy with the comics. The movies aren't even interested in pointing you to the comic book shop. The fact that you have Marvel movies out there and that they were huge at one time, and that when you showed up on opening weekend, they didn't have a free comic for you with information on how you could get into the comic books is absolutely ridiculous.
That's what they should have did.
It always would.
They should have did that. That was something that should have strived sales.
The movie, but it never.
So like say for instance, you're about the newest Marvel movies coming out. What they could have did is sell like a comic book that connects to the movies, or at least talks about movies. So if you don't want to go watch the movie for whatever reason, you just want to read comics, so that's your thing. That could have been a thing, right? Could have said, or give them a comic book right after the movie's over, right? They give them a sense of what's going to happen next. So they have a blueprint of what's going to happen, right? Nope, they don't do that. They just pretend you don't exist. They just pretend the comic book world does not exist.
Their way. The movies didn't need help, although now they do. But they didn't need help at the time. The comics did. And the movie, there's no, for a company like Disney, that used to be all about synergy and all about maximizing, across their different product lines. It was a huge missed opportunity, and comics continues to suffer because of it.
And if you make a new Batman fan from the animated series, or maybe like the Batman movie or whatever the Chris Nolan did, we did a video on YouTube, on the channel, where to start at DC Comics. We had to come up with 5 places to start. Because there is no one place. You can start in the Golden Age. Maybe you want to jump to the Silver Age. Maybe you want to jump to Crisis on Infinite Earths. Maybe you want to jump to this moment in time, or DC Rebirth. There's no linear Batman story. There's no linear Superman story. There's no linear story for any of these characters. Whereas if you watch the anime of My Hero Academia and you go buy My Hero Academia Volume 1, you know exactly where to go next. Whereas
because
if
there's a
you're
little number
a
on
fan of
it.
these heroes, like just
There's
in
literally
a
a
couple
number
of
on
weeks, if you're reading Batman, you're going to start reading Joker Year 1, telling the origin of Joker 80 years after the character was introduced the first time. That doesn't cause confusion whatsoever.
And here's the other thing is you're going to read that Joker Year 1. It's probably not going to be very good or very satisfying. And in 2-3 years, it's going to get retconned by another writer anyway. So what's the point of investing in anything?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with this point of entry that you really don't know where to start if you're a new fan, if you just discovered these heroes. And Marvel and DC have made it almost impossible to just jump in there and really get going. The last thing that they note that manga is doing better than comic books, more genres. Manga may also be selling better than comics because of their more accessible content. Comics appealed greatly to superhero enthusiasts and fans of gritty, hyper-masculine deconstructions of their former. It's not hard to see comics as a juvenile art form and hobby mainly made for men by men. Conversely, anyone could fall in love with the more down-to-earth stories found in slice of life, romance, and comedy manga series. Manga has plenty of action series too, but manga as a whole simply has more variety. This unsurprisingly attracts far more readers, especially younger ones.
The difference with manga isn't that superheroes are all hyper masculine and are all written for men by men.
They're
By
not.
the way, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having a market of that's just for men. It's okay for men to have things that are theirs. The problem is that all of these ideas have started to be forced into the regular books that used to be for men, and now men are walking away, and there's no new audience to replace the men that you've run off. So with manga, if you want to read about someone who's trying to become a chef, there's a manga for that. You want to read a manga about soccer because you like soccer, there's a manga for that. But they're all divided up. They're not trying to force the soccer into every other book.
Thank you. I said this yesterday.
Into every other book.
Guys, do you not remember me saying this yesterday? I said this yesterday. There is a thing for everyone. And because that exists, they don't have to push in crazy ideologies and their stuff. I said that just, I think, a day or two ago. Because there's something for everyone. There's an LGBT book over there. There's a cookbook over there. There's a video game book over there. There's a different type of book. Not everything has to be pushed in with woke
yes,
topics.
You did.
That is, you see what I'm saying? Oh my God. I really should do podcasts. My God. Jesus. I didn't, and yet, bro, and I said it the other day. I'm like,
says you'll be good at them too.
Oh, bro, I swear. And it's so frustrating because it seems like I'm just taking my talking points from somewhere else, but it's like, this is based on what I've experienced, and I think everyone else as a customer, a valiant fan of whatever fandom it is understanding where I'm coming from. This has nothing to do with if you're on the pride flag. What the problem is if the pride flag doesn't have to be everywhere. That's the thing. And that's what people do not understand. It doesn't have to be everywhere. It just needs to be.
Teach you'd be excellent at voiceovers on a podcast.
Probably.
Very excellent.
Probably. But that's crazy. He said exactly what I said the other few days ago. I said, not everything. There's everything for everyone. There's one for girls. There's one for guys. There's one for boys. There's one for sports. There's one for horror. There's one for psychological horror. There's one for anything. Detective, mystery, LGBT. It doesn't matter. Romance. It doesn't matter what it was. Or you can have a combination between mystery, LGBT, mystery, soccer, mystery something. I'm saying there's always something for everyone. That's what makes manga so beautiful, because it's virtually for anyone. You can find a book on something, the most obscure thing to the most popular thing. It doesn't have to be a one size fit all thing. It could be for virtually anyone. And that's what I was trying to say.
Law.
Mystery soccer. I'm pretty sure that there's a psychological horror. It's called Blue Lock, but That's the closest thing I guess you can say.
You know, these slice of life stories are
I
slice
said
of life
this.
stories that appeal to those readers.
Yes.
They know who their markets are, and they know who they're marketing to, and they know what the relative numbers of people that they're going to draw are based on that. American comics have no idea. They think that, you know, we hear from guys like Tim Sheridan that, oh, there's this huge, you know, just huge, you know, audience of LGBT readers that can't wait.
No, there isn't. What the problem is that the issue that needs to be addressed is that it's not the LGBT problem. It's not
Says
LGBT
the mystery behind the stolen soccer ball.
The problem is that you're forcing things that doesn't. That's why the word woke comes in, because when people use the word woke, when I use the word woke, I'm not talking about the LGBT. When I use the word woke, I'm using in the way of saying it's being forced for no reason. When it's forced in a place that doesn't need to be, it's considered woke. It's like if I was watching an anime about like cooking, right? And then out of nowhere, it's telling me about the history of Canada. Like the food has nothing to do with Canadian. It's like Japanese food. They're talking about Japanese food, and then all of a sudden, this one character mentions his history about Canadian history for like no reason. It has nothing to do with the plot. It doesn't make the plot better. It doesn't strengthen the plot. It doesn't do anything but just hinder. Once that happens, it becomes woke. That's what I'm saying. That's all. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less.
Wait to jump in on superhero stuff.
Good job.
And that doesn't prove true.
That's it.
You can keep trying it, but
You
it
can
doesn't
have
prove true.
you can have
what you have to do if you want to cultivate that audience, or if you want to reach an audience.
You can have an LGBT character and they'd be cool. And a perfect example of this is One Piece. One Piece has LGBT characters in the show. They have drag characters, they have gay characters, and they are cool. They're actually cool. Eva is cool. Eva's not an annoyance. Eva doesn't bring up his or her type of orientation every 5 seconds at all. If anything, he ever barely brings it up. He kind of swats it out of the way.
Perfect amount of.
Because Eva as a character is a cool character because Eva becomes a helpful hand to Luffy in the show. He doesn't become, I'm just representing for the sake of representing. He's representing, but yet he's also an asset to Luffy's story. Same thing with the other characters that he runs into back from Impel Down. Right? And it makes total sense why, Eva is not an annoying character. One of the most coolest characters, and helps Luffy get out of his situation. And helps him get not being sick and dying from from Impel Down fight. With his powers that convincingly gives him what he needs to be. Right? Like, let's perfect example. Eva has the power to make you into a female. Right? Permanently. But he didn't do that to Luffy for any reason. He used his powers to help Luffy get cured by his situation. So that proves right there that you can write an LGBT character without them being a total hindrance to the story. And there was a bunch of them. Oda did a great job writing those characters. If he wrote those characters, I'm pretty sure he did. But he did a great job writing those characters. You didn't find Eva a problem. When Eva got hurt, you got worried about Eva. When Eva was in a fight and knew someone, you actually took note of what Eva was saying. So when he knew Kuma, or talked about Luffy's dad, you was listening to what he was saying because there's little things that he's leaving behind for future things to happen, right? So that what makes Eva amazing, because he's not treated as a propaganda piece type thing. He's treated as a legit real character. That's how you write a character. I said this to the girlfriend when watching this. This is how you write a great LGBT character. They're not a problem. They're just cool. It is what it is.
That exists.
Very good
There's
point.
no evidence that it does. But if you do want to reach that audience, what you do is you make the mainstream audience as healthy as and as robust as possible.
Yes.
You appeal right down the middle to the people that actually like comics. Comics are not for everybody. Comics
Nope.
can be for anybody.
Yep.
But those people have to like comics
First.
Absolutely. So I do think they made some valid points, but there's one thing we cannot deny, Aaron Sparrow. Manga are beating the absolute shit out of American comic books. There's no denying it at this point.
No, you're absolutely right, Wes. Manga is absolutely pulling the pants down of American comics and paddling its ass, which I think you can read about in the new Tim Sheridan Green Lantern.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of ass pedaling going on in that comic book. Now, Aaron, you and I, we are not finished here. In fact, we got another hour and 40 in us because this is the Geek Fix podcast exclusive to the Patreon. Obviously, the first subject always goes up on the YouTubes. And this next week, we're going to have something special where we're going to have polls on the Patreon. The backers for the Aaron Sparrow tier are going to be choosing what we're going to review next week. We're going to do a special Patreon's Choice review session. Or do you want us to review Echo? Do you want us to review the second movie of Blade? All that kind of stuff. And we're going to have a lot of fun, Aaron.
We're putting a lot of power in your hands. Please be merciful. Don't make us watch Echo. But no, there's gonna be some good choices up there, and you guys will get to choose whether you want to be benevolent or whether you want to put us through hell. So it's still in here, like the fly's like buzzing around, and it's trying to get in here. It's trying to become YouTube famous.